Hello everyone, it's me, Juan Gamer 54, back in another video. Today we're doing another episode of the crossover event between this channel and the second channel, Alex the Wolf YouTube. The link will be in the description box below. But anyways, yes guys, we're gonna be doing an analysis on Five Nights at Freddy's, Fazbear Frights, The Real Jake. Again, if you guys haven't read the Fazbear Frights books, nor the Tales from the Pizzaplex books, again, the link in the description box below. That's where we're gonna have the second channel, which we did all the read throughs. But more on that later. So I feel like it's time we talk about the real Jake. No interruptions needed. So let's just go with it, shall we? So what's the story about the real Jake? Well, it goes something like this. Jake is a 9-year-old boy who has a PNet, or to be more precisely, a primitive neuron electrodermato tumor, essentially, is what it is. He's been fighting it for 3 years now, but he's severely weakened and spends most of his days bedridden and under the care of Margie, a nanny hired by his father, Evan. 3 years ago, his mother was killed 4 years ago, and Evan couldn't be around due to being in the military. Margie, meanwhile, didn't get her internship and was in need of money, so she took the job. However, she began to love Jake as a son and is staying for as long as possible. She always carries a baby monitor just around in case. Evan will occasionally call and talk to Jake, as well as catching up with Margie. So, already, this is some heavy stuff, to be honest. Every night at bedtime, after Margie turns off the lights, Jake talks to Simon, a quote-unquote friend of his who lives in a small cabinet in Jake's room. Every night, Simon asks what Jake has done that day. The first time they met, Jake texts about the monotony of life stuck in bed, to which Simon clarifies that he wants to know what the real Jake, title right there, did. Jake then make up stories based on things he had wished he could have done, which Simon says he did as well. Jake has never seen Simon before, since Simon has always told him that he can only open the cabinet once he is well enough to walk. Margie worries constantly for Jake. One day, Margie finds their neighbor, Jillian, running around the sprinklers late at night, and Jillian had joined her to help relieve her from her stress. The next day, Jake's friend Brandon convinced him to sneak out of the house and go to the arcade while Margie is preoccupied. Brandon tries to help Jake make it to the wagon he brought along, but eventually Jake collapses and vomits, alerting Margie and Jillian. They help him sit next to the tree, and Jake explains that to Margie that he thought he could be the real Jake. That night, Jake tells Simon about the day the real Jake had to the arcade with Brandon. It was revealed that Evan, still overseas, is Simon. Margie will call Evan, and, using a voice destroyer to sound like a child, he speaks through the hidden baby monitor in Jake's cabinet. It's Evan's idea, believing Jake imagining himself well will help him recover. After Jake falls asleep, Margie quietly enters the room and begins working on her project. Within Jake's cabinet is a doll meant to represent the real Jake. When Jake talks to Simon, Margie will take notes and add physical details to the real Jake doll, such as a chocolate stain and pizza sauce around the mouth. The idea is that when Jake is finally well enough, he will find the doll and see all the things the real Jake did while sick Jake was getting well. Evan believes that if you pour enough love and intention into an object, it will have life. And well, Evan's right about that, but I'm not gonna address it because we're getting into some sad stuff. And I'll be honest, when I read this, a part of me died a little bit. A little part of me wanted to cry. And that's crazy because this is a FNAF book, man. So I never thought FNAF would make me cry, but the story did it. One day, while Jake and Margie were playing a board game, Jake gets frustrated about his double vision and messes the game up in anger. Margie manages to help calm him down, and when Jake says he loves Margie, begins to cry later. Margie learns about Dr. Birdman and the occasional team is stopping treatment. He offers as much support as possible, suggests moving Jake to the hospice if he becomes too much. But Margie tells the doctor that won't happen. This news makes Margie realize how much she's come to love this family. One day, while Margie and Jillian were baking chocolate chip cookies, Margie receives a phone call from Evan's brother, Michael. He reveals that IED hit the vehicle Evan was in and killed him. Executing as Evan's will, Michael informs Margie that Evan had named her Jake's legal guardian and left her the house and some savings. Margie is crushed by the news and unsure the best way to tell Jake, and knowing that Simon no longer exists. Revealing to Jake that she had heard him talking to Simon that he wouldn't be able to visit the night. Disappointing Jake, Margie soon comes to realize that she has fallen in love with Evan. And that hurt because Evan was a very good father, to be honest. Like, he tried to do the best he can to help his son, despite the fact that he's on the other side of the world, fighting in the military. And now, it sickens me. It really does sickens me that what this happened to Evan. Because I would have loved to see this relationship happen. Because it really was, like, hinted at in the books that Margie did like Evan, likes him, and I really would love to see it happen. But FNAF, you can't have good stuff around here in FNAF. That night, Margie wakes up to the sound of voices coming from the baby monitor. But when she reaches Jake's room, the voice stops, and not wanting to disturb Jake, go back to the bed. In the morning, Jake is worse than ever. She tries to comfort him, but Jake says he doesn't want to pretend anymore, and he's going back to bed. Margie decides, while comforting guidance from Jillian, to have Jake move into the hospice care. When the ambulance arrives, Jillian leads them to Jake's room, but Margie immediately knows upon seeing his body that he has died, which the hospice nurse confirmed. Margie and Jillian say goodbye, and everyone in the room falls to the noise of the little cabinet door wide open. And that was the real Jake. Have to say, a very gut-wrenching story, to say the least. It really did. It made me like close my eyes and literally have to fight off the tears. Come on, man. No, there is no way FNAF is supposed to make me cry, but this story did. But what can we learn from the real Jake? Well, it's heavily implied that Jake possessed the real Jake doll after he died. He presumably escaped from the cabinet and happened to end in Phineas Feger's lab in the Stitch Rave mask. His spirit would then inhabit the Stitch Rave. This is a similar situation to Andrew, who possessed Fetch and was attached to the Stitch Rave, who later inhabited it. However, Jake is implied to only possess the mask area, while Andrew possesses the Fetch batteries pack, which also means the body. This is supported by the fact that only Jake can see, while Andrew maintains the power of the animatronic. Jake's last name may be McAnally, since a character named Jake McAnally appears in the story Fetch, which also takes place in the same universe as the Stitch Rave. Some fans believe that Jake's uncle, Michael, is referenced or parallel to Michael Afton. This is because he is wealthy and is said to act robotically. Some even believe that Jake's uncle is Michael Afton, thus making Jake an Afton under this theory. Jake's father, Evan, is in Frights is basically supposed to be the crying child, and the bite of 83 never really happened. Some even further believe that if Jake is Jake McKelly from Fetch, Evan could have changed his name, since William Afton also did the same thing, like in the original novels. And yes, I think this story also was... You can also blame this story for opening the possibility of Evan being the crying child's name. Firstly, I never really thought... I mean, I've seen a lot of people thinking that, Jake might be an Afton. I don't really believe that. But this story did canonically start the whole crying child's name has to be Evan. And I can't really blame them, because I for a time, believed that Crying Child's name has to be Evan. I mean, really think about it. I mean, like, game theory literally made a theory about it and everything. And let's be honest, Evan Afton, Elizabeth Afton, heck, there might have been a chance that that Crying Child and Elizabeth Afton might be twins on some Dipper and Mabel situation. But, then we got Dave Afton, which I got no problem with Dave, but like at the time, I really thought Evan was solid. I thought Evan was the ideal ding ding ding, but nope, apparently not. Anyways, and this is the third story that connects to the Stitch Rave epilogues, the others being To Be Beautiful and Out of Stock. In Stitch Rave 2, Detective Larson visits Marjorie at her home. This was her first appearance in the Fazbear Frights series. And in Stitch Rave number 3, the real Jake doll makes its debut in the Fazbear Frights. Its ownership in Dr. Phineas Fagger, and also revealed that the doll's head was used in a Stitch Rave's creation. And Stitch Rave 4, Jake returns as a ghost possessing the Stitch Rave, making its debut in the Fazbear Fright series, and becoming the main protagonist from being the main protagonist in the Stitch Rave saga from now on in the epilogues. And I guess if you want to go way more, in the Fazbear Frights Ultimate Guide, the story takes place 3 years prior to the epilogue. This also officially debuts the real Jake doll, the unnamed doll from the epilogues, technically making it the third story introducing a new character. The other two stories being Fetch, that they introduced, Fetch, and Bunny Call. The Stitch Rave mask is revealed to have come with the real Jake doll, with the mask actually being its head, and revealed that the Stitch Rave was drawn by Margie. The black eye represents when the real Jake fought a bully at school. The thing stuck between its teeth is drawn in popcorn, and red stains around the mouth is actually drawn in pizza sauce rather than blood. So, yeah. Like, I genuinely thought that the Stitch Rave was going to be entered, to be honest. I don't know why, but like back in the day, people were really convinced that the Stitch Rave has to be entered. And the whole epilogues take place way before FNAF 6 even became a thing. But I digress. And technically, if you want to be very technical, I feel like this story is very good because it's technically a prelude combining with another prelude. Because we know that the real Jake holds Jake, who possesses the mimic, thus making it the second one half of the other story being the man in room 1280, which also explains Andrew's backstory. Because Jake and Andrew both possess the Stitch Rave, as we already stated long before. Also, I find it very funny that Jake's mom is named Roxanne, the same name as Roxanne Wolf from Security Breach. It doesn't really have any importance, but like, I don't know why, but as soon as I heard the name Roxanne, it's like, Roxanne Wolf? Anyways. And I don't know, I just like this story a lot. Because in a way, this story just feels like you can tell this story and not really, like, as you read the story, you tend to forget that this story isn't really FNAF, to be honest. Not disrespect, but really think about it. This is the first story in which there's not really an antagonist. Jake unfortunately was his time because of a disease. And it's like, how do you combat that? I mean, like, yes, we saw how maybe once in a rare room, there's always going to be a kid or a security guard that got blessed with the power of plot armor to take on the animatronics and all the scary stuff. But this is this is a story that doesn't have a clear that doesn't have a antagonist. And if you really want to point antagonist, it's an antagonist that really you can't really feel like you can stop it. It really hurt, to be honest, about what happened to Jake. Like literally, like this story doesn't even have an animatronic or a mascot at all. You know who else has no mascot or animatronic as a villain? The man in room 1280. Like literally, go ahead, go to the second channel and binge watch me reading the real Jake, or read the real Jake for yourself. And there was no connection to Fast Five Nights at Freddy's or Fazbear Entertainment. I know some people are going to say, well, maybe the arcade is Five Nights at Freddy's. We don't know that because this isn't Security Breach. Well, Security Breach was like the Pizzaplex is available. This was not like that at all. So it could have been they would have gone to any other arcade. So this story had no connections to an animatronic, a mascot, not Fazbear Entertainment, and not even a Five Nights Pizzeria. But yeah, all in all I'm gonna say is that I really enjoyed the real Jake, and it just felt so tragic. I like to believe that Jake does meet his father Evan in the afterlife, but let's be honest with ourselves. We know that reunion has to take a little bit of time. But yeah, with that being said, I think that's about it. That's all we gotta talk about the real Jake. And stay tuned for the next episode, as that next episode will be on the second channel. So, hey, the link is in the description box below. So that way, not only do you don't miss out on the next episode, but you get to see all the read-throughs in there. We're currently trying to finish up Hide and Seek, and then after we finish Hide and Seek, we're gonna do the analysis on the second channel. And if I have to say the next episode, no, not. We're probably going to be doing Hide and Seek Read Through Part 2, as well as the continuation of the Tales from the Pizzaplex story Read Through number 2. But anyways, guys, this is Juan Gamer 54, and I'll see you all next time.